Poland says it would arrest Netanyahu if he attends the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. That is a headline that I just read, not from The Onion or any of those parody websites. This is from the New York Sun, one of the better sources out there. And it is Poland's actual policy. Poland is seriously now one of the countries that says if Israel's prime minister will set foot in their country, they will arrest him. A reminder that the International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants for Netanyahu, for his former defense minister Yoav Gallant, and for the body of Mohammed Deif of Hamas, to show that they're not anti-Semitic, that they also issue arrest warrants for people who kill Jews, especially if they're already dead and cannot be arrested anymore. This is this story really does sound like it's some sort of very bad attempt at a joke. Um, Again, this is for a ceremony remembering the Holocaust, and Poland says that basically, the fact that now Jews are not going as lamb to the slaughter as easily as in the past means that they should be arrested and that they are the bad guys. This is a shocking, really shocking uh, statement by the Polish, and another shocking development in what has really been a year and 2 months where um, leaders in the West, especially, and let's count Poland as becoming the West in a sense in the past decades. Leaders in academia, the media have really brought us back absolutely to 1930s Germany and now to 1930s Poland. Welcome to the Daily Objective. Daniel, your initial thoughts on this announcement by Poland?
Yeah, I mean, it's very disappointing to see, especially since Poland has for some time been this sort of like bulwark against totalitarianism. It was one of the biggest supporter of Ukraine since the Russian invasion. I think when you check their part of GDP they contribute to their military spending. They're one of the biggest in NATO. I think they're like right behind the US. So they have they recognize like Russian threat to Ukraine, yet they don't seem to look at it same way about the Hamas aggression and the Palestinian aggression for the Israelis. And again, this like at the very least, it's really disappointing, and especially with this, the fact that this was like specifically said with the. Oh, I thought you're frozen. Jesus. I think this was like specifically said, around the Auschwitz, uh, like I don't know what they call it specifically, like memory of it, or Netanyahu's visit of it. And I think I have a quote from the deputy Polish foreign minister. We are obliged to respect the decision of the ICC. There is no obligation. I mean, yeah, technically they do have it because they are the signatory of the Rome Statute. So since there is a arrest warrant for Netanyahu, they technically have an obligation to do it. But many nations has said no, we're not gonna abide by it. I think Hungary has even invited Netanyahu to come visit. So this is like really it's a cop out. You have no obligation if you really wanted to stand behind truly justice and stand up against the injustice of the International Criminal Court. You would make a statement here, yet they chose not to. And I'll go into I think one of the reasons why it looks like they are going for this. Uh, but yeah, I mean, the biggest point should be that no, you absolutely have no obligation. And on the other hand, you had obligation to go against that when they decide the ICC decides to go against people rightfully protecting their nation.
Yeah, I want to read some of this article, or yeah, just at least start reading it. But first, I'll read the super chats. Thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat. Jonathan says, "Viewers, please support ARCUK 7 days a week, original programming inspired by Ayn Rand." I endorse that message. Thank you, PC, for the super chat. PC says, "Hi guys, good news: Sweden ending funding of UNRWA." Well, that's mixed, but we're going to talk about that on the reality show when we talk about the UN. And thank you, Bonnie, for the super chat. Okay, let's read some of this article. So this is in again the New York Sun. Uh, in a first test case for warrants issued by a global court at Hague, Poland is announcing it would arrest Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel if he attends the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, where an estimated 1 million Jews perished as part of the genocidal Nazi war against them. Quote, "We are obliged to respect the provisions of the International Criminal Court," Poland's Deputy Foreign Minister Vladislav Bartoszewski, who is charged with organizing the ceremony, claimed on Friday, according to the Polish language newspaper, whatever. Sorry, it's a Polish name. It's not easy to read. Dozens of world leaders are expected to attend the January 27th ceremony. That's that in itself is pretty amazing. Actually, let me continue reading. The Polish newspaper added that Mr. Netanyahu has not to date applied to participate in the ceremony. Dozens of heads of state or government are expected to come to the event, including some of Europe's most notable kings and presidents. An Israeli source tells, an Israeli source tells us no decision has been made yet on whether President Herzog, who is the official head of state, would attend. But yeah, it's interesting, in the reality show that follows, we're going to talk about the UN resolution yesterday asking the ICJ to look into Israel's, banning of UNRWA and yeah, leaders of countries who have consistently taken the side of the people who are trying to finish the job that the Nazis started, and that Auschwitz is kind of the most notable location of. They're going to be there, but if the Jew, who is the head of the Jewish state, who dares prevent the Palestinians from finishing the job, decides to show up, he will be arrested for attempting to prevent the second Holocaust. This is what this means, and this is something that again, it's one of those moments in the past 14 months where we look at it and we have to say, is this really happening? Is Poland? This is the country. Remember when anti-Semites around the world go out and show their support for those trying to commit the second Holocaust, they say the Jews should go back to Poland. Poland is now saying, here's what we're going to do to the Jews unless, they do what they did before, they were no longer there for in one way or another. Daniel.
Yeah, and I think it's further in the article. One of the reasons used was basically the Polish government, they want Putin to come to justice. They want Putin to face justice. Putin also has a ICC arrest warrant for him since I think, I'm not sure when was the exact date, but I think it's somewhere in the middle of 23. Had also arrest warrant for him. And so, they are afraid that if they do not abide by it now with Netanyahu, that, it will create a premise that you can sort of, you can ignore ICC and not follow it. And they are afraid that, that would happen. They want to, they wanted to retain credibility. And I think we've seen something very similar coming out of the Czech government when the ICC arrest warrant for Netanyahu was originally uh, issued. The Czech government were also very split because they were saying no, Israel's actions are absolutely legitimate. As you mentioned, the UN vote against Israel, they voted against that, and they stood behind Israel like pretty much fully, or I think to the fullest extent they could. And they were really split about this issue because on one hand they believe this arrest warrant for Netanyahu is crazy, is bogus, but it's the ICC. It's the ICC that issues warrants for international criminals. And now what do you do with that? And it really shows the true corruption and how the UN really destroys any good that could have been had from the UN. The fact that it puts people like Putin on the same level as people like Netanyahu. So now, in the same way, Polish government is definitely is absolutely split. Although I think a bit less than Czech government, because Poland did in the end commit to this. But yeah, it shows the real evil nature of the UN. I think most importantly, that what it does, all these international organizations, what do? They completely corrupt any sense of justice, any sense of um, civility, because they constantly attack the good guys and try to equate the good guys with the evil guys. I mean, it's the same way when, in early 2000s, everybody was crazy to go against about Bush. Basically, he should be a war criminal. He should have a warrant issued against him. And it's in the same way. And now someone, I think on like Piers Morgan, when someone says Netanyahu should arrest warrant against him, someone tries to be clever and say, well, would you want arrest warrants against all Western leaders? Because they are pretty much doing the same thing he is, and they take it because they say, yeah, every single Western leader, almost at the very least, that participated in the Iraq War should have arrest warrants against them. So yeah, it shows. I think it really shows what the ICC stands for.
Yeah. And it also shows that these bodies are not they're never the allies of the good, even when it seems so. So if you think, oh, okay, look, we can celebrate the fact that I have an arrest warrant for Putin. No, it's a bad body that should not exist, and that is ultimately there to cause harm to free countries. And Israel, we've said this right when South Africa brought their case to the ICJ, not the ICC, but the ICJ case about genocide, and Israel decided to play ball. This was an a shocking decision because Israel. Why would Israel do that? I mean, in kind of it's very different, but in a sense, the sense of why would supporters of Israel go to the Oxford Union and debate emotion on this house believes that Israel is an apartheid state committing genocide. You are giving them basically the choice of how to frame a situation, and they are framing it in the most anti-Israel and anti-Semitic way they possibly can. And yeah, I think that's a problem of Westerners. They at least the better ones in the West want to find a way to show that they're not the evil monsters that the other side says they are. The thing is, the other side are evil monsters, and you shouldn't engage with them. Thank you, PC, for the super chat. PC says, Razi, is Poland also a servant of the ICC? Well, yeah, they are choosing to be. And thank you, Bull Moose, for the super chat. Bull Moose says, judging by his responses to other countries, I expect the Israeli foreign minister to call Poland, quote, once again collaborators with the new Nazis. Well, so to his credit, yeah, Gidon Saar, I think has been good so far in the month or so that he has been foreign minister, and yeah, let's hope he does step up the rhetoric, because that's the job of foreign minister, and that's the job of a diplomat. You're basically fighting the PR war, and Israel hasn't been doing that well. It has been apologetic about everything, and this is not a situation where you need to be apologetic. This is a situation where you need to say, no, we are the good, the other side is evil, and if you're not clear on that, you're evil. Yeah,
Do you want to read more of the article?
sure. Um, so why then, the article continues, why then would a high-ranking Warsaw official rush to announce Poland's intention to arrest the prime minister of the Jewish state even before he asked to visit the country? Quote, we hope that Vladimir Putin will finally stand before the ICC. This is why we must comply with the tribunal's rulings, an unidentified official told the newspaper. The ICC issued an arrest warrant against President Putin in March 2023, citing allegations of responsibility for war crimes committed in Russia's invasion in its by Russia in its invasion of Ukraine. Russia has not signed the Rome Statute that established the Hague-based international court to try war crimes and crimes against humanity. Ukraine, which is yet to ratify the Rome State, has agreed to cooperate with the ICC in gathering evidence against Mr. Putin. So yeah, this is really where the problem lies. They issued an arrest warrant for somebody from Hamas as well. So, is Israel going to say, look, we like the ICC and we like some of what they do. We just don't like this? No. The arrest warrant, even if it wasn't for a dead terrorist, even if it was for a living terrorist, that's not, that's not who Israel should rely on. By the way, in the case of terrorists, obviously Israel shouldn't want them brought to trial in The Hague. They should be killed, during a war because that's what war is about. But yeah, this actually these couple of paragraphs I just read, I think I answered them with the point I was making before. Yeah, this is a bad body even when it does seemingly good things.
Yeah, I mean about that specific point, because when I talked about it, it almost seems as I'm trying to excuse Poland's decision, because again, what do you think Putin will see this and like, all right, they committed to arresting Netanyahu. I guess I'll turn in. Like again, what is the thinking here? Like the only way Putin is he like by mistake gonna go on plane that like goes into Warsaw and it's like, oh no, I took the wrong plane and now we can like arrest him. Like it's only gonna be by some kind of commitment. And again, I could I think it's really it's not even naivete. It is really evasion. It is truly evasion. Like this idea that maybe if we are just really consistent with the ICC, maybe we'll get even like dictatorships to sign up, and maybe other dictatorships will cooperate with it. Maybe China will cooperate with us, and and they'll be with us against Putin because Putin is committing war crimes. It's not like because China is all good. They are not committing anything wrong on their side, so they'd be very willing to do this. Like it fundamentally goes against each other. That's why any sort of like these rules of war or international law like is fundamentally like flawed because it expects the countries that have no respect for their own people, they have no respect for the rights of their own people, like China, like Russia, they have no respect for, they have no concept of individual rights completely. They expect them to have some forms of respect for international law, some form of respect for the sort of broad respect for individual rights. Again, these things are going against it. That's why international law it's either redundant or it's evil because it's actually helping these countries. Because good nations like Israel, like the US, already have the sort of mechanism, the steps to encourage or to fight or to have some protection against corruption, against military just doing whatever it wants, any sort of like like heavy meddling. They already have these things in, and so by trying to put something on top, it can only attack free nations. Because again, the Russia, China, they don't give a fuck about like violation of international law. They exist. They can only exist by that violation. If they couldn't violate international law, if they couldn't violate like individual rights, they wouldn't be able to exist. Such a country would never be able to survive. Um, as like
Yeah.
dictatorship, they'd have to actually liberate.
At the start of the show, Paul asked Daniel, "Can we expect more foul language today?" Asked and answered. But yeah, well deserved. I wanna read a bit more of this article and maybe might bring out some more swear words from some of us. Um, so in November, three ICC judges agreed with a request made by the court's chief prosecutor Karim Khan to issue an arrest warrant against Mr. Netanyahu and former Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. Israel is not a member of the court at Hague, yet the ICC judges argued that it has jurisdiction over alleged crimes in Gaza, which it considers part of an occupied territory of one of its members, the State of Palestine. America, which is also not a court member, denounced the ICC decision. President Biden called it, quote, outrageous, and Congress is planning to issue sanctions against ICC officials. Several Republican legislators also demand to sanction countries that cooperate with The Hague in executing the arrest warrants. So, couple of points on that. First of all, the New York Sun is a fantastic newspaper. Unfortunately, not many newspapers report like the New York Sun. Actually, I don't think it's a newspaper anymore, right? It's only online because it didn't succeed as a newspaper. It might be too good for the ideas of the people who would have read it. But yeah, this so the what is the US going to do about it is an interesting question because I this is another one of those questions that are going to be answered after January 20th, and if they actually do act against not just the individuals, which of course they should act against the individuals in that court, but also the countries that are a part of it, because this is not this is not how you engage on the international stage if you want to prevent bad things from happening. And then of course you have to decide what bad things are. So if you look at it from a Western perspective, and I think the West doesn't look at it from a Western perspective, then you would say obviously there are savages here who started a war, and them being defeated is a good thing. And anybody who helps them is a bad person. So, maybe if you're going to issue an arrest warrant for Netanyahu, issue an arrest warrant for Netanyahu for feeding Hamas during the war. That I would understand. I don't think they're going to do that either. But yeah, it is interesting to see if the shift in the U.S. Israel is limited in what it can do on the international stage, and it's doing amazing within those limitations. The U.S. is much less limited, and Trump, being the loose cannon that he is, uh, could work out well here. And of course, this is, I think every day in the next month we're gonna say, well, we're waiting until January 20th to know more about this, and then January 20th, when it comes, we will see if our expectations are met. Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, with Donald Trump, I mean, he left the Paris agreement. He moved the embassy to Jerusalem. Was it he who recognized the Golan Heights, Israel
Yes.
annexed? Yeah.
Yeah.
So he also recognized Israeli annexation of Golan Heights. I think I'm missing one thing. Oh, and he defended UNRWA. So he clearly has no sort of respect for international law, at least seemingly. Again, with Trump, it's not really principled. It's just a sort of what happened in the moment, what's going on right now. If we could get like him actually kicking the UN out of the US and leaving, that'd be. I mean, that would really like set I and I, or even replace it with like a different organization. It will still be bad. It will still like really suck. But at least like kick out. Although if a new organization was founded, all American allies would probably join. So Saudi Arabia and like Qatar would also, Qatar would also join. So that might again not be problematic. Might be problematic. Sorry. So yeah, I mean something real has to like people are starting to wake up to like the really evil nature of the UN, especially with organizations such as the UN Watch. So I really hope we'll see something done about the UN, like because of how cyclical it is, because of how I think we had a production meeting and we were talking about how the sort of the vote against Israel or sort of any UN General Assembly resolution doesn't really mean anything, but it does mean a lot on the moral stage because you could go and then cite it. You could say Israel is the country with the most UN General Assembly resolutions against it. Israel had X amount of resolutions against it. Israel had UN resolution against it for denying aid, for banning UNRWA, and you just cited all in all, and that I think Israel is really losing the moral fight, and the UN is helping with that. As I always say, Israel doesn't really have that big of a problem on the material side, like not having the capabilities to destroy pretty much most of the Middle East, honestly. It's lacking the moral both support from the West and moral confidence in itself to do it.
Yeah, and we are going to talk about the UN and the reality show that follows this show. You might be able to kind of get a sense of where we stand on the UN from the title. The UN is Hamas. But before that, there's a few super chats. Thank you, Paul, for the super chat. Paul says only 15 likes. Come on and press the button, folks. Yes, if you think this content should be out there, should be viewed by more people, is a good kind of counterbalance to what you typically see out there in the world, then absolutely click like, comment, share, and of course, if you want to help us create more content, consider becoming an Ayn Rand Center UK member and supporting our work financially. As have people have done here in the super chat as well. Thank you, Bull Moose, for another super chat. Bull Moose says, I think Trump actually respects international law. It's the entities that accuse Israel of violating it by just lying, attempting to abuse it. And there's a few other comments here I wanted to get to. Ayn Rand Center UK, Trump is the best thing for Israel. WTF, guys, wake up already. Uh, Look, again, I absolutely expect him to be a major step up compared to Biden, and I expected Harris to be a step down compared to Biden. So, but no, it's not the best. First of all, it's not the best thing of the presidential candidates. Nikki Haley would have been better for Israel. And the problem with Trump supporters is you don't seem to follow like what he says because he changes his mind on things. So um, what is the right approach to the North Korean dictator? Is it to call him Little Rocket Man, or is it to say that you admire him because his people respect him? You know, because otherwise they'd be sent to a re-education camp. So yeah, you know, if you have certain ideas, and look, we've said on this channel, we will absolutely. I hope that we will have 4 years of nothing but cheering on everything that Trump does. But that will only happen if he does the things that we are already advocating for. And to the extent that he does the things that we are already advocating for, we're not going to do what the average Trump supporter or the average enthusiastic Trump supporter does, which is support everything he says, even if you supported what he said the previous day and it was the exact opposite of what he just said. So yeah, that's where we stand on this, or at least where I stand. Thank you, Gail, for the super chat. Thank you, PC, for another super chat. PC says Poland is woke. Um, Daniel, I don't know that Poland is woke, but not everything
So
that's bad
so
is woke. Everything that's woke is bad, but more or less. But
Yeah, I mean, similar to sort of, and I have to do it quickly. So Poland had recently an election, and the sort of the new parties, at least from what I've watched, on paper I think are better. The what used to be PiS, the Prawo i Sprawiedliwość or in Polish, or like Law and Justice. I think, yeah, Law and Justice Party. I think was really like authoritarian in many ways. Law and Justice, yes, someone says. So I think this is like better, but it's like when you have like two choices, it's oftentimes it's really hard to pick. Something I just quickly want to say about Trump. Like my question for like people who support Trump, like what would you do if he ever changes his mind? Like he was a big when it came to North American trade agreement with Canada and Mexico, he was big like free trade with Canada and Mexico, and now he's big for tariffs. So how do you like? Did he like change his mind? Is it better now? Was it better then? How do you like do that? If he changes his mind against Israel, are you more pro-Israel or are you more Trump? What if Trump changes his policy on Israel? What would you do? And specifically also about like Trump being pro-Israeli. I think something we should really expect from politicians is not just to be better than the other side, but really be the best, like really expect perfection, or not expect perfection, but like demand perfection or demand the best thing is. What we need from an American president is an regime change in Iran. That's the 10 on like the point scale. Getting rid of the Houthis because they are bombing international shipping, and getting rid of Iran because it's actively like threatening American citizens. That's the 10. And anything below that is like going grade down. So yeah, Trump will be better than Kamala and Biden, almost 100%. But will he actually achieve what we actually need from the American president? That should be how you judge him. Um,
Okay, we are out of time. I see that there are some comments in the chat about the UN vote. That is our topic, so we'll talk about it on the reality show. I also see some people saying that their comments didn't go through, so at least two people say that any comment that's held for review, we let through. I don't think we blocked any comments today. So if there's also YouTube algorithm that makes decisions that are independent of our views. Okay, the reality show starts in a couple of minutes. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you on TRS.